Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to Motorcast. Today we are talking through the Monte-Carlo rally and reviewing it with me today is the one, the only, Joshua Satil.
Yes, hello everyone, it's delighted to be talking about the first rally of what should be a fantastic WRC season.
Well, like you say, it was a pretty good rally and there was a lot of questions answered, but we'll get to that in a second. First of all, from all of us here at Motorcast, we just want to send our condolences and our thoughts to those affected, the family and friends of the deceased. Obviously, crazy accident, and hopefully we don't see anything like that in the future. So let's move on to onto the rally itself. And first of all, Sebastian Ogier showing his class once again. What did you make of him, Josh?
Yeah, fantastic performance from Ogier. I mean, the crew really did rise to the crop in what was a fantastic rally. I mean, it was pretty hard to predict who was going to win from the start to the end of the weekend, really. Certainly not a perfect weekend for Ogier. He looked a bit unsteady in that Ford at times, and of course, he ended up in a ditch on Friday morning. Dropped to, I think, 8th place, but somehow managed to very, very quickly rise up the ranks in the standings. Probably wasn't the fastest driver overall, but he was just so consistently up there, and just that kind of killer pace I think was really unlocked, particularly on Saturday. He really did put the pressure on Thierry Neuville, and we'll come on to talk about him in a bit. But yeah, fantastic way to start this new partnership, Ogier and M Sport. Really good result for M Sport. I mean, they're going to be absolutely delighted, and Ogier should be too.
I mean, with M Sport, it's the first win since 2012. I can't remember the exact rally, but for Ogier to just jump in straight in the car and under some fortuitous circumstances, that's a given, has gotten a rally win in his first ever outing in the M Sport. With Ogier, though, I feel like on the first day, as you said, his pace wasn't exactly brilliant and he was a bit all over the road. The incident where he was in the ditch for a good 45 seconds, could you blame that entirely on the road conditions, or is that also down to Ogier just getting used to the car?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think it was him kind of trying to push the limits. He was maybe a bit frustrated about only, of course, not really getting the running in on Thursday. I think he was just trying to start his time with M Sport on a high, and in typical Ogier fashion, sometimes he has these moments, but he always drags himself out of them, and just I think everyone's going to forget really him being in a ditch, because it was all about what happened after that. But I think was the real impressive and talking point about Ogier.
I mean, it was an amazingly consistent performance from him. He didn't actually get too many. Did he get? I think he got a couple of stage wins.
Oh yeah. He got multiple stage wins. Yeah, but not in kind of a dominant fashion.
Yeah,
as we've seen sometimes from Ogier. So I think it's good for future rallies, because I think it's not like Ogier is going to win every rally this year. I think there is quite a lot of potential, and we'll come on to talk about that more in a minute. Should we talk about his teammate Ott Tanak?
Yes, we should.
A really, really solid job. I mean, really, it should have been an M Sport 1-2. Issues that Tänak couldn't really help on the last day did drop him down into third at the end of the rally. But yeah, what a great drive from Tänak. I mean, coming in, Ogier is your teammate. It's massive pressure. But I think immediately we knew that even from the very first splits on the very first stage, that Tänak was right up there. So I think Ogier is going to be watching over his shoulder, I think, of it, because Tänak had some pretty decent pace and won quite a few stages as well this weekend.
I mean, I was massively impressed by Tänak overall on the weekend. I mean, to still get a podium when I think his car was down 2 cylinders, and he absolutely blitzed the stage, the power stage, to try and.
Oh yeah, at the end coming down the final corner sideways, that was quite the sight.
Some absolutely amazing driving, like throughout the whole weekend. He looked comfortable to me, and that's something you don't necessarily associate with like Tänak a lot. But he has been signed with M Sport, from before Ogier signed for him. He has had testing in the car. Ogier is fairly new to it. Do you feel like that's going to help him in the future rallies? Perhaps, or at least the near future, perhaps in Sweden.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more from Ott Tanak. I think there's definitely the potential for him to win a rally this year. I think that's a very realistic opportunity, especially with Ogier hits a bit of trouble. I think Tänak could be right up there, and he's good on all surfaces really. I don't think he particularly has a weak surface, so I think whether it be snow or asphalt or gravel, I think Tanak's going to be right up there.
Oh, I totally agree with you there.
I think it's hard to see anyone else winning the Constructors' Championship, the Manufacturers' Championship, but, you never know.
Well, it's difficult to say at this point because the likes of, Citroen, they had a horrific rally, but we will get onto that a little bit later. Elfyn Evans, now, had a bit of a tricky day one, which I think he had by his own admission, but day 2 and 3, he was completely on it, and arguably, if he hadn't had the problems in day 1, do you reckon he could have gotten a podium?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's realistic to say we could have had a Ford 1, 2, 3 certainly at one stage. I mean, he won 3 stages, 10, 12 and 13, so Evans certainly shown a lot of pace on that DMAC rubber. I mean, like I said, I think in the preview, if that DMAC rubber just kind of clicks with the road, he's the only one on those tyres, so he's going to be the only one that's going to stand to gain. So I think, it was a great performance from Evans. We know he's right up there with Tänak, I'd say. I think those two are pretty much equal at certain stages. I think Tänak does have the slight edge, and that's why he's got the nod for the full-time drive. But yeah, great start to the season for Elfyn Evans. Like you said, did hit trouble early on, but I think he can still be pretty happy, to be honest, with 6th place and a couple of points picked up as well on the power stage, which sees him 6th in the championship, which I think is a good start to the season for Evans.
I think he can be incredibly happy with his performance, because it could have been helped a little bit perhaps by the advantageous road position with him going out first on the Saturday. But I remember watching the live stage 12, and there was just no one within touching distance of him really there. Whether it's just the right tyre combinations, because with Monte-Carlo it's always a compromise. But he just looked fast. He looked as if he was trying to make up for lost time, I think, slightly, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. He didn't bin it, so I don't think you can really complain too much about how the rally...
Yeah, for sure. I think really, really good kind of return to the WRC for Elfyn Evans, and I think Tänak maybe, I would say, I wouldn't really say he's feeling the pressure, to be honest, because it looks like he's doing a pretty solid job. But yeah, M Sport and DMAC with it, a really, really solid lineup. Ford will be, I think, very, very happy with this weekend.
Next team, and we're gonna have a little bit of talk about Neuville first, because he was incredibly unfortunate to crash on the rally there. I think was it a puncture that led into him sliding.
Yep, and of course on stage 13 as well, whichever stage would it be? Suspension damage, I think. It did it in the end for him. Although I think he did actually get going, and he won the last stage. He won the power stage, which of course is now 5 points. So it wasn't a completely wasted weekend, but it could have been so much more. I mean, he could have got 30 points from this weekend and had quite a big lead on Ogier, but unfortunately it just wasn't to be for Thierry. But yeah, I think the main positive that he was very quick. He showed he could beat Ogier. He showed he could just dominate a rally, and I think this puts him in very, very good stead for the next few. And I hope this wasn't a one-off, because sometimes we do get some pretty surprising results in Monte-Carlo, and I think Neuville was one of those, and it's going to be interesting to see. Matthew, do you think he could carry this on throughout the season?
I think I hope he can. That Hyundai looked quick, at least in his hands. I know we saw Sordo struggle perhaps a little bit, but Monte-Carlo isn't necessarily his favourite rally. I think he showed enough raw pace there, and I feel he was a bit unfortunate with the accident. But that's Monty. There's rocks lined alongside it, everywhere. One wrong move and you are going to, you're going to wreck the car. Looking forward in the future, I feel he's probably Ogier's maybe his best contender for the championship.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely realistic to say. I mean, a lot of people are hyping up Meeke, of course, me included, before the weekend. But yeah, I think Thierry is probably the dark horse, I think, for this year's championship.
As I was saying, well, as you said, in the power stage, he did pick up the 5 points. So he is within a stage rally win of Ogier, so he isn't necessarily completely out of it. But he is starting his season on the back foot here, and do you think that's going to affect him at all coming into the next few rallies?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen kind of issues with Neuville's confidence in the past, particularly I think it was last year. He had a massive dip in form, but then picked himself up and was one of the fastest guys. So I think Neuville's a very up and down driver, but I think he's going to be fine, really. I think he's just going to take this as a kind of a motivation to improve and really get that result that I think he showed he really does deserve.
Moving on from Neuville into Sordo. Sordo, do you reckon he's going to be able to challenge for anything more than a podium? Because I mean, he didn't look particularly confident in the Hyundai, did he?
No, I don't think he's got to as grips with it as quick as Neuville had. I mean, Neuville and Paddon did have most of the testing over the winter. Sordo, of course, did test the new i20 Coupe, but Sordo, despite being the most experienced driver, was not the most experienced with that car, and I think it did definitely show quite a bit of lack of confidence. He had power steering issues as well, which was, of course, is always a right pain at the end of Saturday, I believe. Which did actually drop him behind Craig Breen. But he managed to fight back on Sunday and had a really, really good end to the rally, winning a stage. And I think it was that Sunday that showed us that I think Dani does have the potential for podiums. I think a win, the only way that's going to happen is in Spain, probably on the tarmac, where he's usually right up there. But I think Sordo is completely fine, a solid driver, because he gets to the end of rallies and he picks up unlikely fourth positions in a rally which he had no right really to finish fourth in. So I think, I think this rally kind of summed up Sordo in some ways. He's very, very consistent, doesn't have the ultimate pace, but brings home the results at the end of the day.
I mean, obviously for Hyundai, it's their only car that finished inside the top 10.
Exactly, yeah.
So he's certainly reliable in that case. Probably not a challenger for the title. I think you probably get some incredibly long odds on that.
It would have to be a lot of the other guys having problems and Sordo just being that consistent guy. But certainly he'll help Hyundai, certainly with their manufacturer's challenge.
So looking forward to Sweden, do you think they can challenge for the win again? And if so, who do you think is going to be up there for them?
That is a tough one, really. I mean, of course, we'll get Paddon back in. Obviously the tragic events that happened on the first stage would have, I think, obviously knocked his confidence, but I think he will bounce back. And I do think Paddon could be right up there, to be honest. I think Neuville will be up there. I think Citroen are going to be coming back on strong. But in terms of Hyundai purely, it's a real tough one. I mean, if we look what happened last year in Sweden, we had Paddon right up there in second place. So I would say that I think once again Paddon will be up there fighting for the podium, places. And I think we will see Hyundai get the biggest result that they should have got in Monte. In terms of the win, I think it's unlikely, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, I believe that Neuville or Paddon have got a chance with Ogier still getting used to the M Sport car. They certainly look more confident, or Neuville looked more confident than Ogier. But we'll just have to wait and see, because Sweden's even though it's a similar surface,
it's a massive unknown. Yeah.
Coming from one podium finish to another, we've got Jari Matti Latvala finishing second with the Toyota. What do you make of that?
Wow, that was quite the result for Toyota. I mean, it was looking pretty good from the start, because we had Juho Hänninen after the first day on the Thursday actually been in the podium places. And then Latvala just kind of came out of nowhere. I don't believe he did not win any stages. Yes, he didn't win any stages, and he wasn't really up there setting really, really quick times, but he was just ultra consistent when everyone else was having issues. So I think it's not a second on pace, but it is a second on consistency and real drive from Jari Matti, and they're going to be absolutely delighted with this.
I mean, this is probably being a bit harsh, but he practically crawled around the stages. He was ultra consistent.
Yeah, I mean, it looked mega though, to be fair. I loved how the Toyota looked, I have to say, but yeah, like you said, it was not the fastest way around.
And I'm glad you mentioned Hänninen, because of course coming into this event, me and you in particular were just thinking he was probably just going to get walked by Latvala. And being in third at the end of the first day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, kind of unfortunate the way he dropped from third. Just one corner, a little bit of ice, and going into a tree, and that's what ended his podium ambitions. But what do you think we can see from Hänninen now, knowing that the raw pace is there?
Yeah, I mean, the raw pace was there on that stage, but we'll have to see if it's there, kind of later on. But yeah, maybe I was wrong, really. I mean, he had all that testing over the winter, so maybe that is really helping him. And it would be good to see both Toyotas up there in Sweden, but I think it will be tough for them there if we do get a few more cars finishing. If we do, we're going to get the privateers in. This is quite the crucial factor. We've got quite a few privateers making their debut in Sweden, so it's going to be harder for the likes of Sordo and the guys just kind of getting to the end of the rally to score the big results. I think the privateers could be up there. But yeah, I think Hänninen could surprise quite a few of us, and maybe he can get that podium sometime this season.
I mean, from what I saw of him, I feel like he's got the pace there to score a podium, but I think it would require perhaps another rally like Monte-Carlo of pretty high attrition. Certainly to get a Toyota into second again. But the Toyotas didn't really have too many mechanical faults. They kind of ran like a train, which you'd expect.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Latvala had a few issues. On the morning of Saturday, I think, but then he basically fixed them straight away. So it was all fine, really.
Now, talking about Citroen here, they definitely had a rally to forget. Meeke obviously going out while he was in second position, bit of ice on top of a crest and just completely wiped the car out on a rock. And then Lefebvre didn't exactly have a great rally either. Did he have some power steering problems or some?
Yeah, number of technical issues really for Lefebvre. His rally never really got going.
So for at least the new C3s, the rally wasn't exactly great. But for Craig Breen, what an impact to make, finishing fifth in the DS3, the car that's weighed down a horsepower and aerodynamic grip. How impressive is that for Breen to be finishing the top 5 in a Aero car?
Yeah, that's exceptional. I mean, I was watching a lot of the kind of onboards from Breen and a lot of the interviews with him, and he just seems so confident. He's so one with the car. He seems to have got a new lease of life already. I mean, I was really impressed with him last year, but I think this year we're really going to see him right up there. I honestly do think he could challenge to be the lead Citroen driver. I think if he's a consistent point scorer, and he seems to have that real killer pace on certain stages. So I think Breen's going to be a massive factor. And like I said, fantastic performance to finish fifth in a year-old Citroen. That is very impressive.
I mean, not only does that provide, it'll provide him with so much confidence coming into Sweden with him having control of the new C3. Just got to hope that the Citroen doesn't fall to pieces like it did in Monte. And talking about what you said there, Bo, and possibly participating for the lead driver, does that mean he's a championship contender in your eyes?
I wouldn't go that far, to be honest. I think he's a future championship contender for sure. But I think if Meeke has a bit of a wobbler, then Breen, I think, will be the guy who scores. I think he'll get them more. I think he could get more points finishes than Meeke, but I think when Meeke does score points, it will be the real big result. So I think he might be the most consistent Citroen driver, but I don't think he'll be the most highest placed in the standings. I think that title does belong to Meeke, but I think Lefebvre will be getting a slightly worried. He did win a stage, 15.
He did also get 4 points in the power stage too.
Yeah, I mean, helped by road conditions, but still, he was really quick. So yeah, I think that Citroen dynamic is so interesting. I'm going to be excited to see how that develops because I think we could see quite the tussle between the three of them really, between Breen and Lefebvre, and then the winner of those two, I think, could kind of challenge Meeke. I think, particularly in 2018 and onwards, I think there is potential for Citroen to use one of those guys. I think because there is a lot of pressure on them. We've got Andreas Mikkelsen without a drive. We've got Matt Sotsberg, Lappi, Sonnen, and we have quite a few drivers kind of milling around. And if one of these WRC guys isn't performing, then they really could be replaced even mid-season, I think. I
think you're totally right there. Just coming on from the Meeke, obviously he crashed, and it kind of follows the kind of Meeke almost parody where he wins it or he bins it. Does this dent his championship charge, or do you feel he can start again in Sweden and just go ahead and just try and get his championship back on track there?
I would definitely say I think it does dent his championship chances because this is the first rally. You really need to get off to a good start. We've seen what a good start Ogier's gotten off to, and Meeke hasn't done that. Kind of obviously you can say it's through fault of his own, but once again it is about a bit of bad luck as well creeping in. I think it's going to be tough now for Meeke. Like you said, he has to hit straight back in Sweden with the win. I think that is what he has to do. He has to go out there, win stages from the off, and win that rally, because really the Citroen didn't really impress me in terms of pace. Like I said, Lefebvre did win one stage, but for me it didn't really seem like the car it was hyped up to be and the car it looked like in testing.
No, I totally agree. I mean, obviously Lefebvre had a lot of problems, but even when he didn't have the problems and he was, day 2 in the afternoon, he still wasn't exactly on the pace there. I guess the one solace they can bring is that before Meeke crashed, he was running in second place and only, what was it, about 20 seconds off Neuville. So maybe they can grab a little bit of solace from that. But I mean, if Meeke isn't winning Sweden or a rally in the near future, I feel his championship challenge is over really before it's already started.
Yeah, particularly with Ogier. I mean, he's just going to pretty much score big points at every rally, so you really have to be competing with him from the off. And Ogier, going back to Ogier, because he's going to be very happy. He's got behind him Latvala in a Toyota, but it's not going to challenge for the championship, in my opinion. He's got Ott Tanak, his teammate, who I think he can manage, because he knows he has an equal chance at every rally as Tänak. He's got Sordo and Breen and Evans. It's looking really, really good for Ogier. His biggest rivals, Neuville and Meeke, have hit trouble from the off.
Well, it is the ideal start for him, to be honest, for, having 3 of his championship rivals, if you consider Padden, not scoring any significant points. I mean, do you question at this point whether Ogier is already starting to run away with it?
I wouldn't go that far, but I'd certainly say that he's in the best position already. But I'd say by the end of France, I think we'll have a good idea. Corsica, we've got a snow rally, a gravel rally, and a tarmac rally. We've been on all 4 surfaces by then, so I think we
should have an even
a pretty good idea by then. Yeah, I think whoever's leading that, if Ogier's won every rally, then obviously I think he'll run away with the championship. But if he has a decent lead, then I think it's going to be so tough to hit back, and that's why Neuville and Meeke really have to hit back immediately in Sweden.
I mean, the one source I suppose Neuville and Meeke do have is that the car is still new to Ogier. The rally is only, about a week and a half away, I think, from now. So he's not really going to be able to get many miles in it. But with Ogier being Ogier, you can never really count him out, can you?
Yeah, exactly. Never count out Ogier.
Alright, so going to move on to WRC 2 and a very interesting rally for Andreas Mikkelsen. Competing in his first WRC 2 event, or in his WRC 2 car, finishing 7th overall. What did you make of that?
Yeah, he won WRC 2. I don't think anyone would be surprised about that. I mean, he got to the end, which of course is important in Monte-Carlo. He did the really, really solid job. I mean, I think me and most fans really were just kind of saying, well, it's such a shame he's in there all weekend. Because, I really would have loved to see him in that Citroen, in that Toyota, in any of the cars, really. I think it would have been a pleasure to see Mikkelsen in. But he did the job for Skoda, led a 1-2 in WRC with Jan Kopecky, who, tried to put up a fight, but you're competing against one of the best rally drivers in the world in Mikkelsen. So I think Jan had a pretty tough job, but still came home in second. I mean, he's someone who will be probably a championship challenger in the WRC2 this year, so that was important for him. Hopefully this was just a one-off for Mikkelsen. I mean, that's what he said, and hopefully we'll see him in a WRC car very, very soon. But yeah, Bouvier as well in third, the kind of Monte Carlo specialist. Having a decent rally, again, I would love to see him in a privateer Ford for this rally. That would have been really, really nice to see. But at least we got Bouvier at the rally, and we got Mikkelsen there. So yeah, well done for them for taking part. I mean, I guess Mikkelsen scored some good points for his championship, so if he did get a full-time drive from Sweden onwards, which is unlikely because we've already got the entry list out and he's not on it, then, he's picked up some points, I guess.
Yeah, I was very impressed by him because, the Mikkelsen we've seen in the past, the second half of last season he was really impressive, but before that he's perhaps a little bit shaky. I feel he showed a lot of maturity and, being out of a drive for WRC and being forced to drive in WRC2 it's gonna dent the old ego a little bit, but he did show a lot of maturity, and I feel like considering how he won in Monaco or Monte-Carlo with almost a dominating fashion, I feel like if he's gonna do a full season in WRC2, I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to be challenged, if I'm honest, barring any accident or anything like that. I feel he's favourite for the championship.
Yes, I would definitely agree.
So with that all out the window, I feel it's now time to make some perhaps preview the Swedish rally a little bit, and looking at the pace out there and trying to make a little bit of a prediction. If I'm honest, my stance hasn't really changed from the season preview, and I feel Ogier is going to win this. However, I do feel as if it will be perhaps closer than anticipated. I'm gonna say that Neuville's gonna be second. I'm gonna put Padden third. What did you take from Monte-Carlo? And what do you feel? Who do you feel is going to perform in Sweden?
I mean, my prediction before was Meeke for Monty. I'm not going Meeke for Sweden, I'm afraid, but I'm gonna stick with the non-Ogier predictions. I'm gonna go a bit radical and go with Hayden Padden to win in Sweden. I think Hyundai are going to get the win they should have got in Monty, but it's actually going to be from Hayden Padden. And then I'm going to go with Ogier in second, and we'll go with Neuville in third.
Well, actually, Padden's a pretty good shout considering how well he performed last year in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it's guesswork, isn't it? I think, like I said, we'll get a really good idea of where everyone is. I think a few rallies in, but that's good. That's a good thing. I think we want a bit of unpredictability. We want to go into every stage not knowing who's going to win, and that's exactly what we got in Monty.
So I think that is everything now. I'd like to thank Josh for joining me on here. You can follow him on Twitter at Joshua Satil, and I'd also like to thank my
oh God.
Just a cheeky little thanking myself there. You can follow me at TableMatt on Twitter, and of course subscribe to Motorcast and follow the Motorcast podcast on Twitter. We'll have some news, reviews and interviews, previews, reviews, quizzes and giveaways for you in the future. And of course we'll have the best Formula E, Formula 1, GP2, GP3, WRC and MotoGP, as well as many more previews and reviews and that.
And hopefully on the next episode I won't be here, and hopefully my streak on this podcast will end.
Oh yeah, you've got a good streak so far of being on every single podcast we've had so far.
Yep. Sebastian Ogier over
here. But also we'd like to thank you for watching, and we will catch you with the Rally Sweden review. It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from Josh. We'd also like to give a massive thanks and shout out to 2015 Outside of helping us out with the graphics. His Twitter link will be in the description below.